everyone, it's Jamie, and today I'm going to be sharing a lot of my favourite middle grades because it is middle grade March. I have not read any of the books I was planning on reading for middle grade March, but to be fair, I haven't really been reading anything. I've had a very slow month. But I love middle grade. I am the self-proclaimed defender of middle grade. I think people can be very unnecessarily hard on it. And I think people kind of blanket statement middle grade. I'm also going to be... There are going to be some in here that you definitely recognise, or you at least recognise the author. But I'm hoping to share some that you may have never heard of, because as I said, I love middle grade. Obviously grew up reading it, most people did. And I have a lot of old favourites, and I'm going to be splitting this into two different categories. The first one is just going to be my favourite middle grades. But the second one is going to be some of my favourite throwbacks, which basically means middle grades from my childhood that I haven't read since then. Like, some of the ones that are going to show up in the first category I read as a kid, but I have since revisited them in some way, shape or form. Sometime within the past 3 or 4 years. Basically, anything before I was 14 is going to be in that second category. Just a little bit of an overview. A lot of this is going to be historical, because if you don't know, I was a massive nerd and remain to be that to this day. And I read a lot of historical fiction as a kid. It's what got me into it. It's what got me into history. There's going to be very little contemporary. In fact, I don't think there's going to be like some tween girl contemporary. Plus like a little bit of more recent stuff that I've read that I don't own, so I'm going to have to put a picture here. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of historical, a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, that kind of thing. So let's just get into it. The first book I have here is one that is fairly well known, and that is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. I love John Boyne. I've read 3 of his books. I've given them all 5 stars, I think. I've also read The Absolutist, which is my favourite, and The Hearts, Winds, and Furies. I own 2 more books of his I have to read. And I love him. And this is, unsurprisingly, the first one I read of his. I do plan to read more of his middle grade, because I've heard it's quite good. But you probably know the story of this. This is one of the ones where I doubt you don't know it, but if you don't, this is about a little boy called Bruno. He's 8 or 9, I think, and he is a German boy in World War II, and his father, who is a very important man in the military, the Nazis, has just been moved to oversee a new project, basically. So Bruno's entire family relocate. And then while Bruno's there, it's the countryside. He's bored out of his mind. As I said, he's like 8 or 9. He has nothing to do. So he goes out exploring one day and finds this boy in striped pajamas behind a fence. Now, you reading it know that this is a Jewish boy in Auschwitz. Bruno doesn't know that, though. He doesn't understand what's happening. He's an 8 or 9-year-old boy. And that's kind of what I love so much about it, because this is just a story of these 2 boys becoming friends. But it's also... the older you get, the harder it is to read in a weird way, because you know so much more than this boy does. Like, he doesn't know who Hitler is. Like, he doesn't understand who he is, really. He understands he's the leader, but he doesn't understand anything more than that. He doesn't even know what Auschwitz is. He thinks it's called Outwith. He knows that they live near it, but he doesn't even really know that that's where Shmuel, the other boy, is. He doesn't understand this discrimination. He is being fed lies. And it's heartbreaking to read. And yes, we all cry at the end. Like, it's a story about World War II. If you're expecting, like, a happy ending, read something else. But I'm mentioning this because I think it is definitely worth reading, even if it is one of the more popular ones I'm going to mention. The next one I have here is also popular, but not popular enough in my opinion. Now, Rick Riordan. We all know him. We all love him. I have most of his books. I have not read the Kane Chronicles yet. I will get on that. But I think that the Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard trilogy is incredibly underrated. I see fans of... Generally, if you're a fan of this trilogy, you're also a fan of the Kane Chronicles, which I'm excited for that, because they're 2 very underrated series in a lot of people's opinions. And I love this trilogy. It is my favourite work Rick Riordan has ever done. This has my favourite characters. It has my favourite plot lines. It's fantastic in my opinion. So this first book is about a homeless boy called Magnus Chase. He's 16. His mother was killed mysteriously a few years ago, and he's been homeless ever since. And then he gets killed. But he ends up getting saved by a Valkyrie called Sam, who becomes his friend, and I love her. And he's still dead, like, but he is also now a dead immortal warrior for Odin. I didn't explain that very well, but basically there's this Hotel Valhalla where all these dead people who died in combat and who died in these ways that showed great potential have been taken to Valhalla to live out the rest of their days training for Ragnarok. And Magnus is now one of them, and this has such great characters. It's great to see the Norse gods and how ridiculous they are. There is some things to do with Magnus's parentage, and you don't have to be a demigod to become an Einherji, I don't think. I don't remember. Do you? I know they all are, but maybe I'm mistaken? I don't know. Or at least not every demigod becomes an Einherji, but you find out stuff about Magnus's parentage, particularly with his father. Loki is in this. He is very much so a villain, but I really like what he does with Loki in this. I think it's very interesting. All the side characters are so great. The series has fantastic diversity. There is a character introduced in book 2 who is a Latinx gender fluid person who I love with my whole heart and soul. The protagonist, Magnus himself, is not straight. It's never specified what his sexuality is. He doesn't fucking know. But, oh, should I be swearing in a video about middle grade? Well, Sam is a Muslim girl and she talks about her experiences, and Magnus has a friend who's deaf, and it's just really good. It's really fun, like, in a way that Rick Riordan books are, but it's probably also the ones with the most social commentary, and I like that about it too. And I also love male protagonists who are, like, healers and protectors. I love my Steven Universes of the world, and Magnus is definitely one of those ones. He is such a Hufflepuff, and I love him for that. And the best part is, you don't have to read any of his other books to read this series. Like, there are ties, because Magnus is Annabeth's cousin, who's from Percy Jackson series. But she and Percy show up very, like, Annabeth shows up in some ways throughout all 3 books, but very briefly. Percy is in the last book for, like, 5 minutes. You really don't need to know anything. Like, you get nice Easter eggs if you do know the other things, particularly with Trials of Apollo, which is happening more or less concurrently with this series. But you don't need to read them, which is also good. So pick this up, even if you don't like his other books, because I think you'll like this one anyway. Now, this one is the next couple are going to be throwbacks that I've read recently. The first one is the 39 Clues series. This is the first book, also by Rick Riordan. This is a series where each book is penned by a different author. There are some recurring authors, like I know Jude Watson has done a lot of them. There are just other authors who have done several books. Rick Riordan only did the first book though. And this is a series, it's a large world now. There are now 5 different series, I think, but you can just read the first one. So this first original series, there are 10 books plus kind of an 11th book. And this is a middle grade adventure series about siblings Amy and Dan Cahill. Amy is 14, Dan is 11, and their parents died when they were very young. Dan barely even remembers them. And since then they've been raised by their great aunt who loves them but doesn't really care about them. She doesn't even live with them. She lives in a building that doesn't allow children and gets au pairs to look after them. And throughout all of this, they're unloved, basically, except for by one person, which is their grandmother Grace, their mother's mother. And Grace has just died, and they've basically lost the one person that seemed to give a shit about them. And they go to her funeral, where there are literally hundreds of people there, because the Cahills have such a large family history, and Grace knows everyone. And then a select few dozen or so, or like 50 of them, are chosen to attend this secret reading of Grace's will, where there's a video recording of her in which she says, "Our family has a great secret. You can either take $1 million each, or you can burn that $1 million and take the first clue in a series of many to find out the family secret." And Amy and Dan decide to burn collectively $2 billion and take the first clue. And it's just about them going around the world, discovering different things to do with history and culture and and everything to do with their family. They're going with their current au pair Nellie, who's fantastic. While also the fact that they're not in a great situation. Like, there are other families, you know, they're like the very wealthy English people and these genius triplets and a great, however removed uncle who invented so many great things in Korea. They're the underdogs, and yet they are doing very well, and they start to discover secrets about their grandmother. The fact that their grandmother has kind of been training them for this their entire lives by nurturing certain interests in both of them. It also just has a great sibling relationship. Like, I think it has one of the most accurate ones I've ever read. Like, some of these chapter starters, like, Dan Cahill thought he had the most annoying big sister on the planet, and that was before she set fire to $2 million. And just stuff like that, but they also would die for each other. They nearly do several times. It's really action-packed. It's really fun. There are also several series. I have read all the second series, and then I've read the second book and the fourth series. Because one of the characters is revealed to be gay in that one, so I got it, because of course I did. But yeah, this series is super fun. I would very highly recommend it, even if you just read the first series. It's really funny. It's action-packed. They go around the world. You discover random shit about history. And yeah, it's really good. Next, you may have heard me mention this series once or twice, one of my favorites, and that's the Nevermore series by K. Applegate. This is a sci-fi kid series from the 90s. There was a TV show in the 90s too that Nickelodeon did for a season that, you know, was Nickelodeon, it was fine. But this is about 5 kids. They're probably about, oh, my pajama pants, sorry about that. They're probably about somewhere between 12 and 13. They know each other through various things, but only a few of them are friends. And basically, one night, they're cutting through a construction site. It's a shortcut to get home, and they come across a dying alien who tells them their planet is being invaded. This alien's species is not going to get there in time, and that they now need to fight this war. And this alien gives them the abilities to shapeshift into other animals if they have their DNA. And then the alien dies. And it's about these 5 kids who now just kind of have to save the planet. And it's really good. It's really fun. It's really funny. It's got good sci-fi elements. But also, holy crap, is this series dark as fuck. There are 54 books, main books I think, but there's so many spin-offs. There's the Megamorphs books. There's stuff like the Hawk-Bajir Chronicles and things like that. There's also spin-offs. Megamorphs you should read with the series. The rest, not so much. They're just to fill in the gaps more so. But yeah, there are some deep dark questions of like, is what they're doing ethical? Should they commit genocide? Is it okay to be doing all of this? Like, there are very serious depictions of PTSD in this series, and there is lots of abandonment and kids who have lost their parents and dealing with that, and, you know, should they save their families and abandon everyone? And all these kinds of very difficult questions. And it's done so well and still in an easily digestible way. And it's really fun and it's ridiculous. And these covers are ridiculous. You see these made fun of a lot because they're fucking ridiculous. I own a large portion of the series. You see back there. Yep, right there. Okay. Yep, there's Max. All of the books there, basically. He's standing in front of my last ones. I have a lot of these books. I have probably very mix and match of what I have, but I have over 20 of them. I don't know if I go as far as say I have half the series. I own all the Megamorphs books. Yeah, I collect them, and luckily my library system has most of them, and some beautiful soul put all the PDFs online so you can read them there. So it's very easy to access this series. The fandom is still going, surprisingly. Like, there's still fanfiction being written, people are still doing fan art, people are still like talking about the series because a lot of people are like rereading it and rediscovering it, and it might be a bit hard to get hands on, but I would say it's definitely worth it. It's a really fun. So going back to my historical fiction roots, I have 2 different series to recommend. I only own one of them though. And that is it's the Our Australian Girl series. And basically this series, it's where different authors pen a 4-book series about different girls throughout Australian history. There's going to be a little bit of Australian history stuff in it because I am Australian. This is my favourite one. This is the Lena stories by Sally Rippon. But there are lots of other ones. I've also got the Grace stories, which is about a girl who was a convict. There's the Poppy stories, which is about an Aboriginal girl who was taken and that kind of thing. There's one about a girl who migrated to Australia. There are ones about a girl in the Great Depression, a girl in the First World War. This one is about an Italian girl in 1956. We were not fond of the Italians in the 50s. Partially because we were just really racist. I mean, we still are, but also, like, we didn't hate them as much as we hated, for example, Asian people, but they had funny accents and fought against us in World War II, so we didn't like them. And this is about a young Italian girl. She's grown up in Australia, but her family, most of her family doesn't really speak English, and she's going to this fancy private school because her family wants to get the most out of it, and it's just, this is a very slice of life kind of story, as is the other one I'll talk about. And it's just, she wants to become a writer. This is also the Melbourne Olympics happening this year, and it's a very quiet story about kind of the oppression that she faces and her learning you shouldn't have to lie to other people to get them to like you. Like, find people who will like you for you, even if you don't have very much money, even if your family is foreign and things like that. And then my other favourite series is the Meet Marley series. I don't remember the author. I want to say Helen Peng, but I think she might have actually done... This is about a Chinese girl called Marley. She, I think, was born in China, but was like 2 when she came here. She lives with her parents, and this is set in the 80s, and it's just about her living her life and experiencing oppression, quite similar to Lena. She is a very wild kind of kid. Like, she can't sit still. She doesn't really like doing... She's very energetic, basically. Her family is also quite low income, and her aunt and uncle with their children have just come over from China, and she doesn't really like hanging around with them. And it's just a really quiet, nice story, and it also has some actually quite good talks about racism. She makes a friend who is an Egyptian Muslim girl, and does talk about the fact that people in her family are very racist towards them, even though they face racism themselves. And you see Marley being called certain things that are very not appropriate for me to say, and she doesn't understand what they mean. She doesn't understand that she understands that they're making fun of her, but she doesn't understand what they're making fun of her for, and that's really heartbreaking to read. There's commentary about like Asian representation in TV, and it's really fun, and I would highly recommend. I mean, all the books in this series are really good, apart from Meet Letty. Meet Letty's really boring, I will say that. Her books, it's just about this girl who accidentally migrates to Australia. Those ones are boring. All the other ones, I would highly recommend them. I've read at least the first book and most of them. Next, this is a very specific one, so you kind of have to be in a specific fandom to read it, but that is the Eye of the Lost series by Melissa De La Cruz. Probably remember that name. She's a very famous YA author who's written a lot of things. I have only read this of her, apart from a few works she's on an anthology series. This is a spin-off of the Descendants movies, the Disney Channel original movies that I love. Like, way more, like, totally unironically, way more than I should. I love those movies. Descendants 3 is legitimately one of the movies I'm most excited for this year. And this is the spin-off series that's written about it. There are 3 books published currently. I've only read the first one. The 4th one's coming out this year, I think. And the Descendants movies are basically where King Adam, who is the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, brought together all of the heroes and princesses and all of that, and they formed the United States of Oridon as kind of just one governing body. He's the king of it. And he also decided to get every single villain and put them on the Isle of the Lost. And all these villains and all these heroes have had children. And the movies are specifically about 4 of the kids of villains, the daughters of Maleficent and Evil Queen, and the sons of Jafar and Cruella de Vil, all going to Oridon to have a second chance at life and all the shit that happens there. I love those movies again. But these were books that were written basically to go with the movies. This one is set before the first movie. Book 2 is set directly after the first movie, I think, and book 3 is set closely before the second movie. And then I'm assuming that book 4 is going to be set sometime between movies 2 and 3. I really like this series though. I think it's really fun. This first book is really good. It fills in some gaps. It has some continuity errors, but like, whatever. The characters are really good. I love them. The fact that in this book, they're like not good people, because that character development happens in movie 1, but you can still see inklings of that. There's also some surprisingly good stuff to do with child abuse in this, because their parents are villains. I don't care about them. Carlos in particular, his mum is particularly awful. His bedroom is a closet full of fur coats where there are bear traps all over the floor, and he has to do all these awful chores, and it's awful. Whereas the other parents are more or less just like, we don't care about you, whereas Carlos's mother is particularly awful. So I would say it is middle grade, it isn't super graphic, but I would tread lightly there. Actually, that series though, I think it's really fun. Yeah, that's my thoughts and feelings. Watch the movies first, but yeah. Then, definitely heard of these books, and that is the Goosebumps books, but I'm talking specifically about the Goosebumps Heartland books. I only own one of these books. It is book 9? Book 9, Welcome to Camp Silver. But I am rereading these currently. in audiobook format. The audiobooks are actually really good. They have really good atmosphere, really spooky. And you probably know about Goosebumps books, but the Goosebumps Horrorland books were basically a revamp of classic Goosebumps books. There was, I'll just read them out to you, like all different ones. There was Revenge of the Living Dummy, Creep from the Deep, Monster Blood for Breakfast, The Scream of the Haunted Mask, Dr. Maniac vs. Robbie Schwartz, Who's Your Mummy, My Friend's Going Monster, Say Cheese and Die Screaming, Welcome to Camp Slither, Help, We Have Strange Powers. And then book 11 was Welcome to Horrorland, and book 12 was Escape from Panic Park. And basically those first 10 books were just revamps of classic stories about Flappy the Dummy, about the Haunted Mask, that kind of thing. But then at the very end, you would get this basically little short story that I reckon I've just gone past. No, I haven't. Right there. That's called Enter Horrorland. This little bit at the end here. And it is about one or a couple of the main characters from the book who have encountered this horrific thing, who get invited to this theme park called Horrorland. And Horrorland it's a horror theme park. It's what it sounds like. But everything seems a bit too real, and it's about all these different kids. A lot of them end up meeting up, and there's these very strange things happening. There's no mirrors there for some reason. Some people are going missing. Some of their parents are going missing. You know, like in the first book, the two girls from that book see like the dummy there for some reason, things like that. And then I love those last two books of, what is it? What did I say it was? I've literally forgotten the title already. Welcome to Horrorland and Escape Panic Park, or whatever they're called. I don't know why I've already forgotten the title of them. Those are really good, particularly the last one, Escape Panic Park, I love. But I just think they're really fun, and the audiobooks are very good. I would genuinely recommend them. I've reread the first two so far, because the third one was taking forever to be on hold. As I said, they're produced really well, and they're super short. As I said, like, look at this. They're like 2 hours long. But yeah, these are genuinely really fun stories that I would recommend. Next, I'm going to talk about this briefly. You've already heard about this. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before. Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is a more recent middle grade series. This first book came out, in 2018. No, 2017 actually, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this first book came out in 2017. I have no idea when the third book's coming out, but I read the second book, planning on reading it this month. This is about a girl called Morgan Crow who because of the date she was born, she is cursed. Everything that goes wrong is her fault, from natural disasters to a boy losing in a spelling bee. And she knows that when she turns a certain age, she's gonna die. And the night before she is set to die, she is saved by this very strange man called Jupiter North, who whisks her away to the land of Nevermore. And Morgan has a chance to compete in a series of trials to become part of the prestigious Wondrous Society. And it's so good. The villain is so good. Morgan is a great protagonist. The side characters are really good. It's really fun. It's light but also serious in that way that I love. One of the reasons I love middle grade is that it's very rare that there's no hope in middle grade, which I feel like a lot of YA in particular is getting very grimdark in a way that isn't bad by any means, but that's why I'm now gravitating more towards cheesy, fluffy contemporaries, because I don't always want grimdark. Sometimes I like it, but the thing about middle grade is that a lot of the times, even when it is really dark, it's very rare that the characters are ever feel completely hopeless, and the situation, everything has just gone to shit. So yeah, I would highly recommend this. This is very fun. They're pretty long. They're like between 400 and 500 pages, but they go so quickly. Next, going back to my historical fiction roots, we got A Waltz for Matilda by Jackie French. This is the first book in the Matilda saga that Jackie French writes. I love Jackie French. She also wrote the Animal Stars series. She also wrote the Book of Unicorns. She also wrote Pennies for Hitler and Hitler's Daughter and A Rose for the Anzac Boys, and she writes a lot of historical fiction. And this is a series that is it's a series of books very loosely connected that all come back to this one character of Matilda. The second book is The Girl from Snowy River. The third book is The Road to Gundagai. I've read both of them. Love both of them. And then I also own the fourth and fifth book, which is The Love of Sunburnt Country and The Ghost by the Billabong. And basically this series follows a different female protagonist every book. And they're each set a couple decades apart. And they're just about young women in Australian history. And this first book, A Waltz for Matilda, is set in 1894. Matilda is 12. Her mother has just died. Her aunt, her mother just died or her aunt? Basically, her aunt and mother are both dead. She has nothing, so she flees from the city to the country to try to find her father. She does, and almost immediately he is killed. He becomes the legend of the song Waltzing Matilda, which is a very well-known Australian song. I used to be able to sing it all. I can still do a bit of it. But part of that song is, the line says on the back is, he makes a stand against them to find to the last. You will never catch me alive, said he, which is a line from the song. And from this, Matilda inherits his small farm, and she's a 12-year-old girl who has to run this farm. And it's about her running this farm, but it's also about her becoming friends with an Aboriginal woman there. The series does use toned down racial slurs, but still racial slurs. Jackie French actually a really good, in my opinion, acknowledgement at the start where she talks about it's an apology where she talks about just realism, but also how she has purposely really toned down what it would have been. We didn't like anyone, but in particular, Aboriginal people and Asian people in general. So, you know. But also, there's also this man who runs a very successful, like, massive station who wants to buy the farm from Matilda and the stuff there. And I love it. And Matilda shows up in all subsequent books as she gets older and older and older. This book, she's like in her 30s by the end of this book. This book ends in like, I don't know, like the 20s or something? 1915, I think, is when it ends. Yeah, 1915 is when it ends. So she's, doing math. She's pretty much somewhere late 20s, early 30s. And it's just really nice to see her story and see her grow into this person. This is definitely, of them, it's the most ambling. Like, the other ones have a bit more plot to them. But this one, I just love the character of Matilda. This is one of my favourite books. I really need to reread it soon. And, yeah, I love it. That's it. I love it. Also, like, the end makes me really soft. Like, romance sometimes gets me. Okay, oh no, wait. I just forgot I had tons of others on my laptop. The last physical book I have in this category is Inkheart by Cornelia Funke. I've read this entire trilogy. I love this entire trilogy. Don't watch the movie. It's crap. But this is a book about 12-year-old Maggie who has grown up with a love of books that mostly came from her father, Mo. You know, in their house. They don't have bookshelves. They just literally just stack books against the walls. You know, they're always reading books. And her dad is also a book doctor where he basically restores old books for people. So they're on the road a lot. You know, she does a lot of her schoolwork on the road, stuff like that. And she has noticed that he has been looking for a certain book. It's been very clear to her. And it turns out the book he's been looking for is the book called Inkheart by Fenolio someone. I don't remember his last name. And the reason why he's been looking at this book is because Mo has this special power where when he reads aloud, something from the book comes into our world, but something from our world must go in as a replacement. And when Maggie was very young, when she was 2 or 3, Mo is reading the book Inkheart, and he was reading aloud. He didn't know of his powers yet. And as he was reading aloud, several characters from the book came out. And his wife and Maggie's mother went in, and he's been looking for her this entire time. And in this book, the thing that kind of sets everything going is that Dustfinger, one of the characters from Inkheart that Mo brought out, he wants to get back. He left his wife in there. He has no one. And he wants to go back in and he needs Mo's help to do it. But Mo needs to get his wife out. And it's just about this whole thing of them trying to do that. The first book is very much so an introductory book, but that is not a bad thing at all. Second and third book are fantastic. They are much more fantastical in that way. Like, those ones take place in a more high fantasy setting. This one, not so much. But the atmosphere is great. It's very dark sometimes. I distinctly remember one scene where Basta, who is like a guy who just uses knives a lot, there's one scene with him in the middle, which is particularly terrifying. But it's so good. And the movie could have been so good. They got fucking Helen Mirren as her grandma. And it sucked. Like, not only her, they had a great cast otherwise. I'm pretty sure Andy Serkis played the villain from memory. And they got Brendan Fraser as her dad. And they got What's-Her-Face from Sweet Vicious to play Maggie when she wasn't even known for anything. They got fucking Slughorn to play Fenelio. They had a great cast. And they went, you know what? Let's just ruin this great book. But yeah, this series is very good. It has probably my least favourite love triangle resolution, but that's beside the point. It's a very minor plot detail and I'm a very petty person. I would highly recommend this book. Okay, now just quickly. Oh my god. Okay, quickly, let's run through some that are on my laptop. These are more recent reads. Odds are, got from the library. So the first one is Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. I love Ashley Herring Blake and this is my favourite book of hers. This is about 12-year-old. Are you seeing a trend with how middle grade characters usually are? This is about 12-year-old Ivy Aberdeen who has just had a hurricane blow through her town, ruined her house, and all that she took with her was a sketchbook that is basically where she's learning to express herself, and that's where she is drawing pictures of herself holding hands with other girls as she's trying to figure out her sexuality. And the sketchbook has now gone missing. But the pictures are now showing up at school and someone is writing to her and she hopes that it's her crush. And it's about that, but it's also about Ivy's relationship with her family. She is not the youngest. She has an older sister who's 16, but her mum has also very recently given birth to twins and her family seems to have forgotten her, and it just... I've never related to a character more than I've related to Ivy. And the fact that this managed to be better than Girls Made of Stars is incredible to me. I am probably in the minority in that opinion, I will say that. But this book is incredible. Ashley Herring Blake is incredible. I cried several times while reading this. I'm so excited for her middle grade this year. The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James. I think it's coming out this month or next month and I'm just so excited for it. It's great. Go read it. Next is a graphic novel by Jen Wong called The Prince and the Dressmaker. This is... honestly, okay, some of the books I'm mentioning are more just low YA than middle grade, but the lines are very blood there. This is set in 18th century France, I think, and it is about a prince called Sebastian who is looking for a bride, but, you know, is kind of uninterested, and he also likes to wear dresses and go out on the town at night. And he finds a seamstress who ends up making dresses for him, and it's really sweet. And, yeah. Sebastian's gender is never really confirmed. You kind of get the vibe he's probably genderqueer, but it's 18th century France, nothing is ever said. It's just sweet, and it's fun, and Jen Wong's illustrations are really good. So, that's what I would recommend. Next is a book I'm hoping to own very soon, because I saw it in a book club the other day. And that is George by Alex Gino, and this is about a trans young girl who's, again, probably about 12, I don't actually remember her age, she's somewhere between 8 and 12, who wants, more than anything, to play Charlotte in Charlotte's Web, but she's not allowed to, and it's about her just figuring all that out, and it's really well written, and it's really sweet, and also would recommend the audiobook for this one. Jamie Clayton, who plays Nomi in Sense8, narrates it, and she's really good. Like, and I just appreciate the fact that they got a trans woman to narrate it. And it's really sweet. One thing I like about this book is there's very little hate in it. Like, people have very varying reactions to the protagonist being trans, but it's never hateful. At worst, it's usually confusion, unless it's coming from an actual bully. Like, people in her life, like her friend, her brother, her mum, they all react, not necessarily, like, with open arms support, but there's never any hate, which I just appreciate. And it's just really good and really sweet and heartwarming, and I like it. Next is another graphic novel by Raina Telgemeier, I think is how you say her name. She has done a lot of middle grade graphic novels I need to read, but the one I've read is Drama, and this is just a fun, wacky story about a girl called Callie who loves theatre, and she's like often like in the backstage crew, and there are these twins who come to her school and shenanigans ensue, and it's just so good. It's got really great queer rep. Do not read the 1-star reviews for this because they're not fun to read. I'm sure there are people who just didn't like it, but it seems like a lot of people didn't like it for a very specific reason. But it's cute, it's fun, it's just a really good time. And finally, this one is right up there with Ivy Aberdeen, it's one of my favourites, and that's P.S. I Missed You by Jen Petro Roy. This is a book told in letter format. It's about an 11-year-old girl called Evie whose older sister got pregnant and has been sent away. The family is very religious, and she's been sent away to live with an aunt, I'm pretty sure. And this entire book is just Evie sending letters to her sister that just keep never getting replied. And at first it's just literally just her saying to her sister, I hate you, no I love you, I want you to come back, I hope you never come back, this is all your fault, I know that none of this is your fault, that kind of thing. But then as the book goes on, there is more about Evie questioning her religion and falling in love with this new girl at her school and becoming friends with people and questioning the morality of what's been happening with her sister. And the ending of this is so heartbreaking in so many ways, but it's also kind of uplifting. I love this book. It's so sweet. Jen Roy has another book coming out this year, I think, which is another middle grade about a girl with an eating disorder that I'm very excited for. I like middle grades that tackle really serious topics, and this is definitely one of them. But it never really gets too dark, and I love it. Okay, that's it for all the middle grades I would, without a doubt, recommend. Now let's just go to some throwbacks I just want to mention. These are ones where I'm not sure if I'd recommend them for you, but if you have like a 10-year-old cousin or sibling, maybe have them check it out. The first one is one I genuinely want to reread, and that's the Gallagher Go series. This is the first book, I Tell You I Love You, but then I Have to Kill You. I read the first 2 books in the series, and I love it. This series follows a girl called Cammy, whose mother is the principal, headmistress, whatever, of an elite private school that is actually for female spies, and it's about them learning how to be spies. And it's just so much fun, and like there's cheesy romance, there's really good friendship. It's such a good time. I really want to read the rest of them. I really like the covers too. It's just really cool and fun to read about, as you're just reading about these girls who like are just learning how to like murder people, and like just some ridiculous stuff. Like every week, like you have to speak a different language in the cafeteria, and like you'll learn, and like you have to go on like actual missions, and like it's wild, and I loved it. I really want to reread it soon. Then we have another series I want to reread because I own all of it, and that is the Conspiracy 365 series by Gabrielle Lord. This is an Australian series that's about this boy called Cal, and on New Year's Eve, this man comes up to him and says, they killed your father, they'll kill you, you must survive the next 365 days. And basically the next day, Cal is accused of trying to kill his mum and sister. And he is sent on the run, and it's about him trying to uncover this conspiracy, and his father is dead. What happened with all of that? And the only person he can trust is his best friend, and it's about him trying to cover this conspiracy that may go back to the 16th century. And it's really good. They kept doing more books, like those Conspiracy 365 Black Ops, which weren't very good, but this original series is really good. This really cool character called Winter, who I like love. Ooh, was that another crush that I never realized I had? Maybe. But this is just really fun. I loved it. There's a really great sibling relationship. It's adorable. It's really good. Again, the history nerd in me loved it. Like, there was an app for this, I remember, that was really wild, and like there's a recap at the start of every book, which was very convenient, and just a fun time. Next, we have the My Story, My Australian Story, and My Royal Story series. These are called something else in America, I think, but in Australia this is their titles. One by one, My Story books. This is Workhouse, which I just very randomly pulled up. My favourite one was Titanic. Like, I was a bit of a hoe for Titanic when I was 12. But that was also just one I remember really loving and really getting into. But this literally just focuses on different events in history. This one is set in 1871. It's about a girl who lives in a workhouse. Then there's also the Great Plague. It's about a girl in the Great Plague. Mill Girl, The Hunger, stuff like that. They're all very good in my opinion. And these are all told in diary format. Then there's the My Royal Story series, which was basically one that was focused specifically on royalty, specifically female royalty generally. I think I own all of them. This one is Mary Queen of Scots. There was a bit of a saga going on with Tudor books. There was Catherine of Aragon. There was Anne Boleyn and Me. There was Henry VIII's wives, which were kind of just all connected. There's also Elizabeth. There's Victoria. There's Anastasia. There's Cleopatra. That's how I know all my weird Cleopatra facts. Fun fact. But these are just really fun. The Marie Antoinette one is also very good. And then there's a very specific my Australian story. This one is Who Am I, which is about an Aboriginal girl who is put into a white family, and it talks about stolen generation. Yeah, I loved these. These were just so much fun. I own so many of them. You might want to be able to see it. It's like right next to, okay. Let's see if I can point there. Okay, that white stack right there, that is a lot of mine. I own a lot of them. And I really love them, and I would recommend. They're all just historical fiction and diary format that are very fun. Then I'm going to recommend an author, and that's Jacqueline Wilson. I own some of her books. I own Suitcase Kid, and I own some of her books in her Girl series. Girl That Late is the only one I ever read. She writes UK middle grade. I've read a lot of them. There is, let me just pull up different series she's done, because she's done a ton of them. She also did the Tracy Beaker books. She also did, God, what else has she done? Oh, here we go. Oh no, wait, these aren't her books. Oh wait, yes they are. I'm just very confused now. She also did Dustbin Baby, which is very good. She also did Mummy Cat or whatever. These are just very fun books. Then again, I'm not sure if I'd recommend it for anyone now, but like, if you've got someone very young, Suitcase Kid in particular, if you've got a kid who's like his parents go through a divorce, make them read this. Trust me, as a kid who was going through a divorce at the time. And finally, I'm going to talk about this series that I don't know how to categorize. It is the Rotten Apple, Poison Apple, and Candy Apple series. So, Candy Apple was the main one, and it was literally just like a brand of books. This one is called Starcrossed. That was just about like 12-year-old girls going through 12-year-old girl problems. There's like The Sister Switch, Accidentally Fabulous, Accidentally Famous, Miss Popularity, My Sweet's 13, shit like that. That, again, I would really recommend for like 10-year-old girls. Then there was my favourite, which were the Poison Apple books. These ones were supernatural. This Chili Bites is about vampires. There was The Dead End, which was about ghosts. Misfortune, which was about like weird shit. There was one about a werewolf. And then there was the short-lived Rotten Apple books, this one's Mean Ghouls. It's literally just about zombies. And yeah, again, I wouldn't recommend these for like anyone over the age of 12, but if you know someone under the age of 12, I think they could be fun. Am I going to try to lift this stack? I mean, you know what? I think I can put in a valiant effort. One sec. Oh, okay. Here are oh, they're upside down. Here are some middle grades that I would recommend. Comment down below. Tell me your favorite middle grades that I haven't mentioned here. I purposely didn't mention Percy Jackson or Harry Potter because you've read those or you don't care to read them. Like, there are lots that I want to read that I just haven't read yet, which is like killing my soul. So yeah, comment anything down below as long as it's not mean. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more random content. I'm hoping to post videos every Sunday. Maybe. I'm maybe getting a schedule down. All my social medias will be linked down below. Including some reviews for some of these books you'll find on my Goodreads. A lot of them don't have reviews though because they're older reads. I hope you're having a lovely day and I will hopefully see you next Sunday if this works out. Bye!